reduces pain, and supports healthy aging. Our speaker today is Steve Christopher, the lead flexologist at StretchLab Avon. Steve holds both a bachelor and a master degree in kinesiology from Indiana University, Indianapolis, and has dedicated his career to helping people move better through science-based exercise, mobility, and performance training. He is certified strength and conditioning specialist, also certified as personal trainer, and holds numerous advanced certification in functional movement, cancer exercise, speed development, and performance coaching. For the past 15 months, Steve has been the lead flexologist at StretchLab Avon, where he has completed more than 2,000 hours of one-to-one assisted stretching sessions. Every day, he helps clients improve mobility, reduce pain, recover from injury, enhance athletic performance, and stay active through personalized stretching programs. Today, Steve will share practical, science-backed strategies that you can begin using right away to improve your mobility, reduce stiffness, and move with greater confidence and freedom. Please join me in welcoming Steve today.
Hey friends, so this will be a super easy PowerPoint here, nothing too crazy, and then we'll have time at the end for questions. It shouldn't take up the full hour, so we should be good to go. So freedom to move. It's important to grasp the vocab from this because as we go along, we're going to learn little different pieces of the puzzle, and when we're able to start putting those pieces together is when all the fun will really start to come. So some quick vocab. We have flexibility, mobility, neural control. At first glance, a lot of people might think flexibility and mobility are the same thing, but when we start to realize the difference between the two, it makes a whole lot more sense how we can use them. So flexibility is range of motion, a number. So think 50 degrees, 80 degrees. Flexibility is just how far can you move a limb. And then we have mobility, which is the ability to use that flexibility. So think of it like not only how far can I bend it, but can I do that and then move it as well? And neural control is a little bit more. Essentially, it's the central nervous system trying to be able to coordinate movement. So take all the little moving pieces of everything trying to happen and let it happen with a certain degree of synchronicity and be able to make it smooth. A very easy, simplified way to think of this would be like balance, okay, or stability. So flexibility, again, think of it literally as just a number. Mobility is can we take that number and use it? And then neural control is can I coordinate all these different things and now localize movement? Think like stepping over a bucket, all right? Why stretching matters. So movement gets lost before strength does. It happens in about 5 weeks. So you start losing flexibility in about 5 weeks, and that happens a lot quicker than you think because how often has something happened where a month of your life just flew by? Maybe a traumatic event happened, maybe you got a promotion at work. It could be good or bad, but sometimes we stop working on the little things like movement. It'll disappear quickly if you don't keep moving. The downward slope. So this is super scary. Usually, when you stop moving, you're going to start noticing stiffness, and then it'll start to slowly turn into soreness, then pain, then loss of movement. And that should sound terrifying because it really is. When you start to lose movement, that's a whole lot more scary than just having a little bit of pain in that movement because it takes away the option to move. Stiffness changes how we interact with our world. And why that's scary is because even if you work a remote job and you don't have to go out into the world all the time, you still need to use a whole lot of different pieces at your disposal, like your hands. You have to be able to rotate your chair left and right by using your core. And when we start to lose these things, again, you're losing options, and that's terrifying. So a great example here is let's go back to that bucket. Let's say there's a bucket on your floor and you have to get past it. A lot of us are going to have to walk around that bucket to lose time, and a few of us might be able to step over that bucket, but then how many of us are going to be nervous because we don't know, oh shoot, can I actually step over that bucket? I don't know. When we start losing that confidence in our movement, that's when it really starts to go downhill fast. Poor mobility can change how force is distributed through the body. So a really easy way to look at this is sometimes something hurts, and that something that hurts takes away something from somewhere else. For example, tight hips, back pain; tight glutes, knee pain; tight shoulders, neck pain. These can also work in reverse. So someone with a tight back might then develop problems in the hip. So a lot of the things that we do here at StretchLab is we don't just work on the area that might be your complaint. We're working on all the connective tissues as well around it in a more holistic approach, because you don't know what might be causing, let's say, for example, that low back pain. So a nice holistic approach to attack it from multiple avenues only does good. Stretching gives you the choice, and I really want to drive that home, is it's nice to be able to choose what movements you want. You want to gain a movement library, not just be dependent on a few movements that you know. For example, walking around the bucket as opposed to walking over the bucket. There are four types of stretching. We're going to make it super simple. The first is dynamic stretching. Dynamic stretching is what you want to do before you do a strenuous activity like a workout or going for a long walk or a jog, hiking, playing pickleball. Anytime you're going to use your body to do moderate to intense activity, we want to make sure we do a warm up, all right? And the reason why this is important, that dynamic stretch specifically, is it increases whole body blood flow. And a lot of you might be doing dynamic stretching and not really realize it. So, for example, it could be simple leg swings, walking lunges, a walking quad stretch. Essentially, what it is it's holding a stretch and moving. Okay. Static stretching. This is the polar opposite. Just like the name sounds, it's static or being still. You usually want to use this to cool down at the end of your workout or the end of your activity. Again, think stretching after a game of pickleball. And it's super simple. All you have to do is grab a limb and hold it. Usually, when we do this, you would want to do this from between 30 seconds to upwards of 45 to 50 seconds. And you're going to want to do 2 to 3 sets of it. But essentially, it's how we cool down at the end of an activity. Ballistic stretching, I didn't include a picture of this one because if you want to do this, I don't want to be responsible for you doing it. But essentially, it's really good for maximal movement. Think you're in the NFL combine and you're about to have to do a 40-yard sprint, okay? What you need to do is a bouncing stretch where you're bouncing in and out of that stretch, and that primes the muscle for a very, very quick, powerful movement, but also carries a very high probability of injury. So you'll very, very rarely see it in the wild unless you're at an event like an NFL combine or someone doing a max level lift at a competition. PNF stretching. So this is our bread and butter. There are only a very few handful of places that do PNF or proprioneuromuscular facilitation stretching. We at StretchLab do it, and then also you'll see it in physical therapy offices, sometimes in athletic training rooms, but usually it's more medical. But StretchLab brought it to the public. So what makes PNF stretching different is it's the one that gives you flexibility, mobility, and neural control. And we're going to get into those definitions a little bit later. But essentially, we have two people. You have one person being stretched and you have the person facilitating the stretch. So we can see our example here laying down on the table and then our friend grabbing her leg and bringing it back towards her. We've probably seen this in movies or maybe younger in sports, one person helping crank on the other person's leg. What makes PNF stretching different is we have the contract and the relax phase. So as this gentleman holds her leg, eventually that woman down there is going to say, okay, yep, that's a good stretch. And then he's going to hold it there. Then after a few seconds, he's going to tell her, all right, now push. And she's going to try to push that heel back down to the table, thus performing the PNF stretch. And what's really cool about that is after she does that, I don't know if we'll be able to see my cursor here, but after we'll call this 90 degrees. After she does one round, she'll immediately be able to bring that leg back to about 100 degrees. It looks really cool in person. That's why StretchLab tries to promote like videos of stretching rather than like a picture, because if you can see the person moving back further than what they could, you'll see the light in their face light up, and it's pretty great. Their eyes glow. Why do we use PNF? Okay, why do we use proprioneuromuscular facilitation? It improves flexibility, mobility, and neural control. It also improves blood flow to target tissues, and we're going to go into why that's super important. But now to talk about why do we use PNF stretching? Because we use research-backed methods. So this is just a small handful of studies that I wanted to pick for this. I think when I initially pulled these out, I found about 18 that were somewhat okay. These 5 I really liked. So there are a lot of research studies to be able to back PNF stretching, and it's nothing super new. It's been done for a while. So let's go back to that blood flow and why blood flow is really important. So almost every modality of physical therapy, from all the way back to 2330 BC, all the way up to 2026, involved trying to increase blood flow in particular tissues. And the question becomes, well, why is that important? And the reason why is because blood brings nutrients and water to the muscle, and it also carries waste products away from the muscle. And the problem is if we're not moving or we're holding one position for too long, imagine staring at your screen for work, looking down at your phone, or even working in like a chair and looking down at something, right? When you do this and you hold that position for too long, you actually lower the amount of blood flow to that area. And what that does is it increases the oxygen and builds up the buildup of byproducts like lactic acid and a couple other things. And that's what's going to eventually cause this overflow over here or the onset of pain. So it's really important that you don't want to hold one position for too long in your everyday life. You want to make sure that you're constantly moving and not just staying in one position. Where does this happen? This can happen in a lot of places. A lot of us might suffer from low back pain, shoulder pain, neck pain, and many other places. But it's not unique to you. A lot of people are in pain, but we're here to tell you you don't have to live like that. You don't have to be in pain. So before we do anything, before we stretch humans, what we do is we help get them to relax. The reason why this is important is there's something called neural guarding, where think about it when you're in a uncomfortable position or uncomfortable place, your chest is going to be a little tighter, your arms might be a little bit tighter to you, you're going to be a little more tense, okay? And that's a protective measure that your brain's taking to try to keep the body safe, but we can get you out of that. So when you feel like you're in a threatening place subconsciously, so you're not thinking, oh, this is a scary place, but imagine the first time you went to a doctor's office or went to the dentist. It's a foreign place and you're a little scared because you don't know what to expect. And it's completely normal. It's called guarding. And we're here to help you learn how to tell the brain it's okay to let go and allow the body to move like it's supposed to. So at StretchLab, we use this technique called diaphragmatic breathing, or more simply, belly breathing. The technique has been used for a long time in a variety of different therapies. It's definitely nothing new, but it's not utilized to its full extent outside of places like the ER, psychology visits, different therapies. And we use it at StretchLab, and we're going to use it together here today, okay? So let's give it a try. What I want you to do is you can be sitting in your chair, you can be wherever you are, it doesn't matter. I want you to close your eyes, and then this is super simple, I promise. We're going to take a deep breath all the way in, and when you do that, you're going to notice your belly button starts to rise a little bit. So think a nice, easy, deep breath in, and then slowly let it out. And we're going to do this for about 9 seconds, nothing too crazy, but just think belly button all the way in and belly button all the way out. Let's do it 2 more times, okay? Nothing crazy. Just take a deep breath all the way in and breath all the way out. Congratulations, you've done something called belly breathing. It's a really cool technique that can help teach the body that whatever position you're in or whatever stressor you're going through, it's okay. So it's not something where you have to be meditating on the floor. You could be doing this while driving or in a stressful situation at work. It's a great way to help the body relax and reset. What it does is it reduces tension, improves your stretch tolerance, or allows you to move a little further in that stretch, supports what's called downshifting of your central nervous system, essentially allowing the body to, again, let go. Improves body awareness. It's a little bit better proprioception or knowing where you are in space. And it helps us at StretchLab coach more mindful movement and activation because we're not just stretching you, we're teaching you how to actually use your own muscles and be able to recruit these muscles you probably never knew you had. It's a really cool experience and it's hard to explain until you actually experience it. There are 3 major types of pain. So now we're going to go more to the clinical side of that diaphragmatic or belly breathing, okay? 3 major types of pain. We have physical, emotional, and psychological. With the physical, imagine a stab wound or rolling an ankle. Okay. Emotional, imagine heartbreak. And for the psychological pain, imagine PTSD. All three of these types of pains are usually stored in different areas of the body. You might have heard someone rubbing your shoulders and saying something like, "Oh, wow, you must store all the stress in your shoulders." There's some truth to that. A lot of our physical and emotional pain or stress sometimes goes into those shoulders, and there's some truth to that. So they can be stored in different locations, but what's really cool is they all must travel through the same pathway. And that diaphragmatic breathing or the belly breathing actually downshifts that neural pathway to allow, let's say, a 7 out of 10 physical pain. You do a couple rounds of the belly breathing, about 2 minutes later, that 7 out of 10 might be a 4 out of 10. That might not sound like a lot, but to that person that was into the 7 out of 10 pain, that's a life changer, okay? But it also works for emotional damage and psychological damage. So in therapy, you'll take people with PTSD and you'll slowly bring on that onset of that scary memory and coach them through the belly breathing when they think about it, and it actually downshifts their body, and the body then becomes is able to relax even with that memory present. It's really cool. So we use that to manipulate the stretching in our StretchLab to our advantage. And how we do that is we get a deeper stretch, better neural control, or again, better activation of the cascade of muscles, and a stronger activation, a bigger push. All this leads to, again, better flexibility, mobility, and neural control. Again, that's a very big theme here. At StretchLab, we use something called the 12-week journey. It's nothing crazy. It's 12 weeks, 3 months. It starts with the foundation phase, week 1 to 6. Essentially, what we're doing here in your first couple of visits is we're trying to learn what your limiting factors are, where you have pain, why you have pain, what are your goals, what are you trying to be able to achieve? Are you trying to be able to play with grandkids? Are you trying to be able to climb up a ladder again? When you're on the floor, do you struggle to get off the floor? We essentially help try to find those pain points in you to be able to help set some really cool goals and then be able to start that process of achieving those goals. The adaptation phase, this is week 7 to 12. This is really cool. This is when you start noticing those changes in your body and you start moving in ways that you haven't in a really long time. You're going to be in less pain. You're going to be more mobile. It's a really cool sensation that's hard to explain until you've actually been in that scenario where, let's say, for example, you do 3 hours of yard work, you come back in, and normally you would have been super sore, but the next day you wake up feeling great. It's an indescribable feeling, but wow, is it phenomenal. Last is the maintenance phase. This is week 12 and beyond. Essentially, we're trying to protect the gains that you've acquired and then also work on the next limiting factors. For example, let's say your first goal was, oh gosh, when I'm sitting on the floor, it takes me a few minutes to get up. I'm in a lot of pain. It's a whole ordeal. It's really embarrassing. I really don't want to have to face that anymore. Well, let's say that was your first goal and we're able to get you through that goal. Now that we hit that and you're feeling pretty good about it, now let's talk about the next one. Maybe you want to be able to climb a ladder. Maybe you want to have better balance so you have a lower probability of falling. We'll help you discover what excites you. This is where healthy aging really starts to come in because, again, it doesn't matter if you start with us at the age of 12 or 80, everybody ages, okay? And as we start to age past that age of about 24 to 26, we start losing mobility. Our bodies start to become more plastic rather than the elastic that we want it to be. And really, it's a lifelong endeavor. We at StretchLab give you homework or things for you to be able to do at home to help maintain progress. But again, if we go back to the start of the PowerPoint, it takes about 5 weeks to start losing that mobility, losing that flexibility. So let's say something comes up, you have to miss a week or two. That's not a big deal. If you think about it, let's say you had a really stressful 2 weeks, you might feel really stiff, you might feel really sore, but that's just a brain fog. When you start moving again, everything will come back. We have multiple ways to track progress in like human physiology. For example, there's the functional movement screen. You have a goniometer. You have different ways to be able to track this. At StretchLab, we use a really cool way called the MAPS or the MSPS system. And what's cool about that is it actually gives us objective feedback. So it's a really cool camera that has you go through a couple overhead squats. After you perform the overhead squats, it then scans your body through that whole movement. and then gives you scores. So let's say your shoulder mobility, your shoulder activation, it goes all the way from the neck all the way down to the ankles. It's a really cool thing. And again, it's an objective way to track progress because sure, it might be cool to be able to say, yeah, I feel really good. I feel like I'm moving better. It's a whole other story when you actually have data to support that. So we do the map scan about once a month for members to be able to track their progress, but also if you notice the map scores aren't changing much, okay, shoot, something's going on. Let's take a look. Let's see what we need to adapt. It's really cool. Again, anyone that does it, it's pretty fun. So a lot of people have mottos or mission statements. We're going to go over a couple today that have a similar vibe or similar theme. Okay, so Brian Johnson, the guy that founded PayPal with Elon Musk and then developed something called the Blueprint Protocol. It's a really cool diet if you ever want to look into it. His motto is "Don't die." We have Lance Armstrong, not the astronaut, right? And what was his? His was "Live strong." We have Steve, that's myself. At StretchLab, I'm always saying nobody dies today. All right. And we have StretchLab. StretchLab also has a motto, and their motto is really cool. It's called Live Long. What you notice, the theme of all of these is essentially to live longer and not die or not die early. And what I'm here to tell you is there's another way to look at this, which is really cool because PNF stretching, for example, might not absolutely increase your longevity or how many years you're alive. But what I can tell you with a certainty based on peer reviewed research is it will give you more enjoyable years in your life. Again, no one's really afraid to get old and die. They're afraid to be old and fragile and being afraid to fall or dying early or just not being able to enjoy those golden years that they earned. Okay. So, another way to look at it, the real mission is more years, more movement, and more options. We're not stretching just to become more flexible. We're stretching to preserve your freedom. Because again, it's really nice to be able to choose from a library of movement options rather than just being told, oh, shoot, this is the only way that I can do it. It's cool to have options. So last, we have questions. So now we have a little time here for you guys to ask any questions, get any clarifications that you might need. I'm happy to answer whatever you guys got.